Welcome to African Folktales by Eri. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more interesting stories. Also to share with friends and family. Now, sit back, relax, and let the story begin. Greetings, my friends. Today I bring you a story from the heart of our modern African city. A tale not of ancient warriors or mystical creatures, but of two young hearts navigating the complex paths of love, sacrifice, and forgiveness at Chimamanda University. This is the story of Kelvin and Amanda, two souls bound by a love that would face the greatest of tests. Listen carefully, for in their journey, we might find pieces of our own stories reflected back to us. In the bustling halls of Chimamanda University, where dreams are built brick by brick, and futures are shaped one lecture at a time. Our story begins. Kelvin Adebayo was in his third year of medical studies. With his neat appearance, bright eyes that sparkled with intelligence, and a smile that could calm even the most anxious patient, Kelvin was well on his way to becoming the surgeon he had always dreamed of being. Born into the wealthy Adebayo family, owners of the largest pharmaceutical company in West Africa, Kelvin had enjoyed every privilege life could offer. Yet, what set him apart from other wealthy students was his heart. Kelvin treated everyone equally. From the university chancellor to the groundskeeper who swept the pathways each morning. A man's worth is what he achieves, not what his parents achieved, Kelvin would often say. The words flowing naturally from lips that practiced what they preached. It was during the orientation week for new students when destiny played its hand. Amanda Okafor, a fresh-faced first-year computer science student, was struggling with a stack of textbooks outside the university library. As the books began to tumble from her arms, a steady hand reached out to catch them. "These computer science books are getting heavier every year," Kelvin said with a warm laugh. "Or maybe it's because I'm more used to medical textbooks." Amanda looked up, her beautiful eyes meeting his, and in that moment, something shifted in the universe. She smiled, revealing a small gap between her front teeth that Kelvin would later say was where her brilliance escaped from. "Thank you," she said simply. But those two words carried the weight of a beginning. From that day, they found reasons to cross paths. Coffee at the campus cafe turned into study sessions at the library. Study sessions evolved into walks around the university gardens, where they talked about everything from quantum computing to the best jollof rice recipe. Amanda came from what many would call a middle-class family. Her father taught mathematics at a secondary school, while her mother ran a modest clothing shop in the city market. They weren't poor, but they weren't rich either. They lived comfortably in a 3-bedroom apartment on the east side of the city, working hard to provide Amanda and her 2 younger brothers with good education. "My parents believe education is the one inheritance no one can take from you," Amanda would tell Kelvin, pride evident in her voice. Their love blossomed naturally, like a well-tended plant reaching for the sun. They complemented each other perfectly. Kelvin helped Amanda understand the complex biology electives she had chosen. Amanda simplified the computer programming courses Kelvin struggled with as part of his medical informatics module. They studied together in the quiet corners of the university library, sharing dreams under the soft glow of desk lamps. They ate together at the small food stalls that lined the university's perimeter, their fingers intertwined when not busy with spoons and forks. Soon, they became known across campus as K&A, the couple everyone looked up to, the relationship everyone wished to have. "Look how he carries her bag when her shoulder hurts," whispered the girls in Amanda's computer lab. "See how she brings him home-cooked meals during his overnight study sessions," the boys in Kelvin's anatomy class, he would say with envy. In a world where relationships often seemed fragile and self-serving, Kelvin and Amanda had built something that appeared unshakable. A love based on respect, kindness, and genuine care for each other's dreams. But, as our elders say, smooth seas do not make skilled sailors. And the waters of their love were about to become very turbulent indeed. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon. Kelvin was leaving his advanced cardiology lecture when his phone rang. The university chaplain's voice trembled as he delivered the news that would shatter Kelvin's world. His parents had been involved in a terrible car accident on their way back from a medical conference. Neither had survived. The days that followed passed in a blur of tears, black clothing, and solemn faces. Amanda never left Kelvin's side, her hand firmly in his, as they stood before two caskets adorned with white lilies and family photographs. "I am here," she would whisper, when the weight of grief made it hard for him to breathe. "I am right here with you." The funeral was grand, as befitting the prominent Adebayo family. Business associates, politicians, and hundreds of university students came to pay their respects. Condolences flowed like a river, washing over Kelvin but unable to cleanse his pain. But grief was not the only shadow that would fall across Kelvin's life. 1 week after the burial, as he and his older sister Folake sat in their family home, trying to make sense of their new reality, the doorbell rang. Uncle Dio, their father's younger brother, entered with 3 stern-looking men in suits. He carried a large folder filled with papers. "I am sorry, children," Uncle Dio announced without a trace of sorrow in his voice. "But there are things you must know. Your father's company has been in debt for years. The banks have called in their loans. Everything must be sold." Folake, who had just completed her degree in business administration, stood up angrily. "That's impossible. Father's company was thriving. I saw the books myself during my internship last summer." Uncle Dio's smile did not reach his eyes. "Things change quickly in business, my dear niece. Unfortunately, everything is gone. This house, the cars, even your school fees." Within a month, Kelvin and Folake found themselves evicted from the only home they had ever known, watching as their belongings were catalogued and carted away for auction. When Kelvin tried to access his university account, he discovered his tuition for the semester had not been paid. His meal card was declined at the cafeteria. His dormitory supervisor informed him that his residence fees were 3 weeks overdue. The wealthy, confident medical student was now homeless, penniless, and at risk of losing his education. It was Amanda who came to his rescue. Without hesitation, she invited him to share the small, off-campus room she rented. She spoke to her parents, who, despite their own modest means, paid Kelvin's tuition for that semester. "We believe in you, Kelvin," Amanda's father said simply when he handed over the payment receipt. "And we believe in the doctor you will become." But the fall from grace was steep and painful. The friends who had once surrounded Kelvin, laughing at his jokes and accepting his generosity, suddenly had no time for him. Their messages went unanswered. Their seats beside him in lecture halls remained conspicuously empty. "I don't need them," Kelvin would say, his voice strong even as his eyes revealed his hurt. "I have you. You're all I need." Amanda would smile and squeeze his hand. "And you have yourself, Kelvin. Don't forget that. The same brilliant mind, the same kind heart. Those things, no one can take from you." Life became a constant struggle. Amanda took on part-time work at the university's computer lab. Kelvin found evening work at a pharmacy, ironically selling medicines produced by companies similar to the one his family had once owned. They studied by candlelight when electricity bills went unpaid. They shared single meals, insisting the other take the larger portion. They walked long distances to save bus fare. Yet somehow, impossibly, their love grew stronger. In the crucible of hardship, what had been young romance transformed into something unbreakable. They learned the true meaning of partnership, of carrying each other when the road became too difficult for one to walk alone. "We will get through this," became their shared mantra, whispered in the darkness when doubt threatened to overtake hope. And for a while it seemed they would. As the seasons changed and another year began at Chimamanda University, a new challenge emerged. Amanda's father reached the mandatory retirement age at his school. The modest pension he received was barely enough to support the family, let alone continue helping Kelvin. "I'm so sorry, my daughter," her father said during one of their weekly phone calls. "We can still cover your expenses, but that is all we can manage now." The news hit both Amanda and Kelvin hard. Without that support, Kelvin's education hung by a thread. He was now in his final year, with just one semester separating him from his medical degree, and the subsequent housemanship that would lead to his qualification as a doctor. The pressure mounted. Kelvin approached his former wealthy friends, swallowing his pride to ask for loans he promised to repay once he began working as a doctor. Their responses cut deeper than any surgical blade could. "Money for what, Kelvin?" laughed Emika, once his closest friend. "So you can continue pretending you belong here? The medical field is for those who can afford it." Some were even crueler. "I can help you," said Oho, eyeing Amanda, who stood waiting at a distance. "But I want something in return. One night with your girlfriend, and I'll pay your tuition in full." When Kelvin told Amanda about these encounters, his voice shaking with rage and humiliation, she held him close. "They are not worth your anger," she whispered. "Their wealth cannot buy what we have." But the world was not finished testing them. Beautiful young women from wealthy families began approaching Kelvin. They had always admired the handsome medical student, and now they saw an opportunity. "Leave that poor girl," urged Zainab, daughter of a prominent senator. "I can sponsor your education. My father can guarantee you a position at National Hospital afterward. All you need to do is be mine." Kelvin's response never wavered. "I cannot sell Amanda's love for money." Some things in this world still remain sacred. The couple took on more work. Kelvin began moonlighting as a private tutor for younger medical students. Amanda designed websites for small businesses. They barely slept, catching moments of rest between classes, work, and more work. Their health suffered. Dark circles formed permanent residences under their eyes. Their clothes hung loosely on frames that grew thinner with each passing week. Yet they pushed forward, step by painful step. Folek, Kelvin's sister, had finally found employment as an entry-level accountant at a small firm. Her salary was minimal, but she faithfully sent a portion to her brother each month. "We only have each other now," she would write in her messages. "We must stand together." As the final semester approached, a miracle seemed to appear on the horizon. St. Maurice Hospital, the most prestigious medical facility in the country, announced openings for their highly competitive housemanship program. This one-year post-graduation training was the golden ticket in the medical field. Only 20 positions are available annually, with guaranteed permanent employment afterward. Kelvin applied without much hope. His grades had remained excellent despite his challenges, but St. Maurice typically favored students with powerful connections. When the email arrived confirming his selection, Kelvin stared at his phone screen in disbelief. Amanda read it over his shoulder, her scream of joy breaking the stunned silence of their small room. "You did it!" she cried, throwing her arms around him. "Kelvin, you really did it!" For the first time in nearly 2 years, Kelvin's brilliant smile returned to its full wattage. "No, Amanda, we did it. I would never have made it this far without you." They celebrated that night with a small cake Amanda splurged on, a luxury they hadn't allowed themselves in months. As they shared the sweet treat, the future finally seemed bright again. But the email contained one crucial detail that brought them crashing back to reality. "Final selection is contingent upon successful completion of your degree program." To claim his place at St. Maurice, Kelvin needed to complete his final semester and pass his exams. And to do that, he needed to pay his outstanding tuition, an amount that had grown with late fees and penalties to a sum far beyond their combined means. The university bursar's office had been clear. The payment portal would close in 3 days. Without full payment, Kelvin would not be registered for his final examinations. Without those examinations, there would be no degree. Without the degree, the position at St. Maurice Hospital would go to someone else. Amanda, Kelvin, and Folek pooled every resource they had. Folek applied for a loan against her future salary. Amanda's parents emptied their emergency savings. Kelvin sold his last valuable possession, a gold watch that had belonged to his grandfather. Still, they fell devastatingly short. "Perhaps it's punishment for some sin I've committed," Kelvin said one night, his voice hollow as he sat on the edge of their bed, head in his hands. "Or perhaps I'm paying for my father's sins. Whatever the case, I've prayed for forgiveness." Amanda sat beside him, her arm around his shoulders. "This is not divine punishment, Kelvin. This is just life, unfair and difficult sometimes. But we will find a way, we always do." But as the deadline loomed closer, even Amanda's unwavering optimism began to falter. On the evening before the portal was to close, while Kelvin was working his pharmacy shift, Amanda made a desperate decision. She walked across campus to the luxurious private dormitory where Alex lived. Alex had once been Kelvin's best friend. They had studied together, celebrated birthdays together, shared dreams of becoming doctors together. But when Kelvin lost everything, Alex had been the first to turn his back. Amanda knocked on his door, swallowing her pride and her anger. When Alex opened the door, surprise flickered across his face before settling into a smug smile. "The beautiful Amanda," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "To what do I owe this pleasure? Has the perfect couple finally hit a rough patch?" "I need your help, Alex," Amanda said directly, her voice steady despite her churning stomach. "Kelvin needs to pay his tuition by tomorrow morning, or he loses everything. His degree, his position at St. Maurice, everything." Alex's eyebrows rose. St. Maurice? He got into their program? For a moment, genuine impression crossed his face before the mask of indifference returned. "Well, good for him. But what does this have to do with me?" "We've tried everything," Amanda continued. "We're still short. I know you have the money, Alex. We'll pay you back double once Kelvin starts working. Please." Alex studied her for a long moment, then opened his door wider. "Come in. Let's discuss this like adults." Inside the lavishly decorated room, Alex poured himself a drink but offered nothing to Amanda. He sat in an expensive leather chair, watching her remain standing awkwardly by the door. "I do have the money," he finally said, "and I could transfer it right now if I wanted to." Hope flickered in Amanda's chest. "So you'll help?" "Alex, thank you, But," he interrupted, "I want something in return, something only you can give me." The implication hung in the air between them, heavy and suffocating. "No," Amanda whispered, backing toward the door. "That's not why I came here." Alex shrugged. "Then why did you come? Did you really think I would just give Kelvin the money out of the goodness of my heart? The same Kelvin who always acted so superior, so perfect." His voice hardened. "You know the portal closes at 8 a.m. tomorrow. This is your only option." Amanda's hand found the doorknob, ready to turn it and flee. "Nobody will ever know," Alex added, his voice softer now. "Just one night, and Kelvin gets his future back. If you truly love him, isn't that a small price to pay?" What passed through Amanda's mind in those moments? What calculations of love and sacrifice were made in the chambers of her heart? Only she could truly know. The doorknob remained unturned beneath her fingers. "If I agree," she said, her voice barely audible, "you must transfer the money first. Not to me, not in cash, directly to Kelvin's student account. And you must show me proof that the transaction is pending before anything happens." Alex smiled, reaching for his phone. "You drive a hard bargain, Amanda. But I agree to your terms." He made the transfer as she watched, showing her the confirmation screen with the pending status. He placed the phone on the table, the screen still lit with the transaction details. "Now," he said, setting down his glass and standing up. "A deal is a deal." What followed were the darkest moments of Amanda's life. She surrendered her body while keeping her soul tightly locked away, thinking only of Kelvin and the future this sacrifice would secure for him. When it was over, while Alex lay satisfied on the bed, Amanda quickly dressed. With trembling fingers, she picked up his phone and completed the transaction, changing the status from pending to processed. What she didn't know was that Alex had already sent a message to Kelvin from another phone. "Come to my room immediately. I have the money for your tuition. Hurry." As Amanda buttoned her shirt, the door swung open, and there stood Kelvin, his face transforming from hope to confusion to devastating comprehension as he took in the scene before him. Alex is naked on the bed, Amanda is disheveled, and tears are streaming down her face. "Kelvin," she began, but the words died in her throat. Alex's cruel laugh filled the silence. "Perfect timing, old friend. Your girlfriend is quite generous when it comes to helping you." Kelvin's eyes, those kind eyes that had always looked at Amanda with such love, now filled with something she had never seen before, hatred. "I hate you," he said, each word a dagger to her heart. Then he turned and walked away. Amanda grabbed her bag and ran from the room, Alex's laughter following her like a curse. The university campus at night can be a lonely place. Empty pathways that bustle with students during the day become hollow arteries, pulsing with silence and shadows. Amanda ran blindly, her vision blurred by tears, her chest burning with each ragged breath. She found herself at the small campus lake where she and Kelvin had often sat, planning their future together. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with incoming calls, but she ignored them all. What could she possibly say? How could she explain? The money was in Kelvin's account now. He could take his exams. He could claim his position at St. Maurice. He could have the future he deserved. And she? What future remained for her? The peaceful surface of the lake beckoned. Would it not be easier to slip beneath those dark waters, to let the weight of shame pull her down into oblivion? To never have to see the hatred in Kelvin's eyes again? From her bag, she took out a notebook and pen. If this was to be the end, she would not leave without explanation. Without goodbye. Her tears fell onto the paper as she wrote, pouring out her heart in what she believed would be her final words. When the letter was complete, she folded it carefully and placed it in an envelope she had in her bag. On the front, she simply wrote, "Kelvin." She placed the letter on the bench where they used to sit, weighing it down with a small stone. Then she walked to the edge of the lake, looking into its depths. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the night air. "I'm so sorry." She took one step forward, then another. The water reached her ankles, then her knees. Cold seeped through her clothing, but she barely felt it compared to the cold that had taken hold of her heart. Before she could take another step, strong arms wrapped around her from behind, pulling her back toward the shore. "No, Amanda," no exclamation mark. It was her roommate Ngozi, who had become worried when Amanda didn't return to their room and had gone searching for her. Amanda collapsed into Ngozi's arms, her body racked with sobs. Between gasps for air, the story spilled out, the desperate need for money, Alex's proposition, Kelvin walking in at the worst possible moment. Horrified, Ngozi called for help. Campus security came running. An ambulance was called. Amanda was rushed to the university teaching hospital, her body temperature dangerously low, her pulse weak, her will to live seemingly extinguished. Kelvin, meanwhile, had wandered the streets outside campus, his mind replaying the scene in Alex's room over and over. The woman he loved, the woman he thought he knew, in the arms of a man who had betrayed him. Was nothing sacred? Was no one true? He turned off his phone, unable to bear any communication. For 7 hours, he walked, not caring where his feet took him. The city lights blurred around him, car horns barely registering in his consciousness. When exhaustion finally overcame him, he found himself at a small park. He sat on a bench, his body heavy with fatigue and heartbreak. As the first light of dawn broke across the sky, something within him shifted. Perhaps it was the natural human instinct to survive, to continue despite pain. Perhaps it was the years of medical training that had taught him to think rationally, even in crisis. Whatever the cause, Kelvin turned his phone back on. Immediately, it began to buzz with notifications. 52 missed calls from his sister. 25 from Ngozi. 5 from Amanda's mother. Cold fear replaced his anger. Something was wrong. He called his sister immediately. Kelvin. Folek's voice was raw from crying. Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you all night. It's Amanda. She's in the hospital. It's serious. Come quickly. Kelvin ran as he had never run before, his heart pounding with a new kind of fear. Whatever Amanda had done, whatever had happened between them, the thought of losing her forever was suddenly unbearable. When he arrived at the university teaching hospital, breathless and disheveled, he found a scene of quiet crisis. Amanda's parents sat huddled together in the waiting area, their faces drawn with worry. Ngozi paced nervously. Folake stood as soon as she saw him, rushing to embrace her brother. What happened? Kelvin demanded, his voice breaking. Is she? She's alive, Folake said quickly. But it was close, Kelvin. So close. They found a suicide note at the lake. She tried to drown herself. The world seemed to tilt beneath Kelvin's feet. I need to see her, he said, pushing past his sister toward the ward. Inside, Amanda lay ghostly pale against white hospital sheets. An oxygen mask covered her face. Monitors beeped steadily, the only reassurance that life still flowed through her veins. Folake embraced Kelvin from behind, her tears soaking into his shirt. What happened between you two? She whispered. She didn't deserve this, whatever it was. Before Kelvin could answer, Amanda's mother approached. Her eyes, so like her daughter's, were red-rimmed from crying. Without a word, she handed Kelvin an envelope. Forgive my daughter, she said simply, then stepped back to give him space. With trembling hands, Kelvin opened the letter and began to read. My love, Kelvin, I want you to know that I love you, and I will continue to love you even after my death. I want you to know that I have never cheated on you, and I have been honest all my life until today. I promised you that I would support you and do everything in my capacity to help you. When I met you, you were such a wonderful person. Humble, kind, and lovable. You never discriminated between poor or rich. You helped everyone around you, even my parents, and always tried to make everyone around you happy. Every time I see you struggling with life, suffering, and thinking you are being punished because of some sin, it saddens my heart because you are an angel in human form. I couldn't afford to do nothing and watch you lose the placement from St. Maurice Hospital. This is the best opportunity for you to rise again. I did what I did for you, and for the love we shared, to make sure you rise again, even if it meant carrying my guilt to my grave. I know I betrayed your trust, and I am very sorry. I decided to give up my life, because I can't stand to face you after what I did. If God permits and if second lives really exist, maybe we will fulfill our destiny as husband and wife, as we always planned. The money is in your school portal account. Kindly pay your tuition, and promise me you will pass your exam. Please never forget who you are, and continue to be the loving, humble, and kind-hearted man you have always been. Don't seek revenge and find a place in your heart to forgive me. Your love, Amanda. As Kelvin finished reading, tears streaming down his face, a commotion arose behind him. Nurses rushed into the room, responding to a change in Amanda's vital signs. Doctor! Doctor! Folake called out. She just coughed. She moved her hand. The doctor hurried to Amanda's bedside, checking her pupils with a small light and listening to her chest with a stethoscope. She's coming back to us, he announced with cautious optimism. Her vitals are improving. Kelvin stood frozen, the letter clutched in his hand, watching as Amanda's eyelids fluttered. Slowly, painfully, her eyes opened, immediately seeking and finding his. What passed between them in that gaze? What silent communication flowed from heart to heart? The monitors showed Amanda's heartbeat strengthening, quickening slightly as their eyes remained locked. Kelvin moved to her bedside, gently taking her hand in his. No words were needed yet. This moment of reconnection, of life affirming itself despite darkness, was enough. The road to recovery is rarely straight or smooth. For Amanda and Kelvin, it wound like a river through difficult terrain, sometimes flowing easily, sometimes meeting obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Amanda's physical recovery was the simpler part. 3 days in the hospital allowed her body to heal from its ordeal. The doctors monitored her closely, concerned about water in her lungs, about the effects of hypothermia, and about the depression that had driven her to such desperate measures. The harder journey was the one Kelvin and Amanda had to make back to each other. On the day Amanda was released from the hospital, Kelvin was waiting with a small bunch of wildflowers he had gathered from the campus grounds. Not the expensive bouquets he once could have afforded, but more precious for the effort they represented. "Can we talk?" he asked simply. They walked slowly to a quiet corner of the hospital garden, sitting on a wooden bench beneath the shade of a jacaranda tree. Purple blossoms occasionally drifted down around them, like gentle rain. "I paid the tuition," Kelvin began awkwardly. "The portal closed yesterday. I'm registered for my finals." Amanda nodded, her eyes fixed on the ground. "I'm glad." Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and painful memories. "I don't hate you," Kelvin finally said, his voice breaking. "I could never hate you, Amanda. I was shocked, hurt. But not for the reasons you might think." Amanda looked up, questioning. "What hurt me most wasn't what you did," he continued. "It was that you felt you had to do it. That after everything we've been through together, you couldn't come to me first. That you thought you needed to carry that burden alone." Tears welled in Amanda's eyes. "I was afraid you would stop me. That you would say no. That you would rather lose the opportunity than let you sacrifice yourself." Kelvin finished for her. "You're right. I would have. Because no hospital position, no medical degree, nothing in this world is worth your dignity, your safety, your happiness." He took her hands in his touch gentle as if she might break. "What Alex did was wrong," Kelvin continued, his voice hardening slightly at the name. "He took advantage of your desperation, of your love for me. That's not a transaction, Amanda. That's exploitation." "But I agreed," Amanda whispered, shame coloring her words. "Under duress, facing an impossible choice. That's not true consent." Kelvin's medical training provided the terminology his heart was searching for. "You did it because you loved me, because you wanted to help me. But Amanda, I would rather fail 1,000 exams than have you hurt like this." They talked for hours as the sun moved across the sky, casting shifting patterns through the jacaranda leaves. They cried together, sometimes held each other, sometimes needed space. It wasn't a single conversation that healed them, but the beginning of many. In the weeks that followed, both Amanda and Kelvin sought help from the university's counseling services. Sometimes together, often separately, they worked through the trauma of what had happened. Kelvin, with Amanda's permission, reported Alex's actions to the university ethics committee. The investigation was painful but necessary, bringing to light not just what had happened to Amanda but similar incidents involving other vulnerable students. Alex was expelled, his medical career effectively ended before it began. Justice of a sort, though nothing could fully erase what had occurred. As for Kelvin's tuition payment, the money remained in his account. After much discussion, he and Amanda decided to accept it, not as payment for what had happened, but as restitution for a wrong. The university agreed to list the source as an anonymous scholarship donation in the official records. Folktales, whose strength had been a pillar for both her brother and Amanda, helped them move into a small apartment closer to the hospital where Kelvin would soon begin his housemanship. She visited often, bringing home-cooked meals and practical advice. Amanda's parents, once they understood the full story, embraced Kelvin even more fully as part of their family. "Our children have been tested by fire," Amanda's father said during a quiet dinner at their home, "and emerged stronger for it." The day of Kelvin's final exams arrived. Amanda waited outside the examination hall, her own finals completed the week before. When he emerged, exhausted but smiling, she knew before he spoke that he had done well. 2 weeks later, the results were posted. Kelvin Adebayo, first-class honors in medicine. Despite everything, despite the loss of parents and wealth and nearly losing love itself, he had achieved his dream. The letter from St. Maurice Hospital arrived the same day, confirming his position in the housemanship program. Starting salary, modest but sufficient. Benefits, comprehensive. Opportunity, unparalleled. That night, on the rooftop of their small apartment building, under a canopy of stars, Kelvin turned to Amanda. "We have been through more in these few years than most couples face in a lifetime," he said softly. "We have seen each other at our best and our worst. We have almost lost everything, including each other." From his pocket, he produced a small wooden ring, carved by his own hands from a piece of jacaranda wood from the tree where they had begun their healing. "I cannot afford gold or diamonds yet," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "But this ring is made from the tree that witnessed our new beginning. One day, I will replace it with whatever precious metal or stone you desire. But for now, Amanda Okafor, will you marry me? Will you continue this journey with me, whatever challenges may come?" Amanda looked at the simple wooden ring, more beautiful to her than any jewelry in any shop window. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, today and always, Kelvin Adebayo. In wealth or poverty, in sickness or health, I choose you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, the first stars of evening appeared above them, witnesses to a love that had been tested almost to breaking, yet emerged stronger, deeper, and more true. My friends, our story draws to a close, though for Kelvin and Amanda, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. 2 years have passed since that night on the rooftop. Kelvin is now a resident surgeon at St. Maurice Hospital, his skilled hands healing bodies while his compassionate heart heals spirits. Amanda works as a software developer at a company she helped found with classmates from her computer science program. They live simply but happily, saving for their future and working toward their dreams. The wooden ring still adorns Amanda's finger, though now accompanied by a thin gold band. Their official wedding took place 6 months ago, a joyous celebration of love that had overcome the dark. If you were Kelvin, would you find it in your heart to forgive Amanda for the painful decision she made, even if she did it out of love? If you were Amanda, would you go as far as to sacrifice your body, your dignity, just to help the one you love achieve his dream? And in today's world, do we still have parents like Amanda's, who give selflessly to support their daughter's love, believing not just in her, but also in the man she chooses? What would you do if you were in Kelvin's shoes? Can love survive betrayal, even when it's done with good intentions? Do you believe Amanda was right, or did she go too far? What moral lessons can we learn from this story? Kindly share your honest thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful African folktales. And be sure to tap the notification bell to be alerted when we upload a new story. Until next time, always remember, true love is the most valuable thing in this world, something money can never buy.